The moon hung low in the night sky, its pale light casting ghostly shadows over the village of Mundar. The huts, made of clay and thatch, stood huddled together like a pack of frightened animals. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth and the faint aroma of burning torches carried by the village elders. Maya crouched behind one of the huts, her heart pounding like a war drum. At 19, she was no stranger to trouble, but tonight felt different. Her dark curls clung to her face, damp with sweat, as she strained to hear the hushed voices of the elders gathered near the sacred altar. "The time has come," croaked Elder Laku, his voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "The ritual of renewal must proceed, or the curse will consume us all." Hello, please wait a bit, share, like, comment on this story and subscribe to our YouTube channel to enable us grow. And thanks for showing us your support for this channel. Also hit the notification bell to get notified when a new video drops. God bless you. Maya frowned. She had shouting commands to catch the intruder. She dashed into the jungle, the dense foliage swallowing her whole. The night came alive with the sounds of crickets, rustling leaves, and her own ragged breathing. She didn't stop until her legs gave out, and she collapsed by a gnarled tree. "What are they hiding?" she whispered to herself, her voice trembling. The shadows seemed to deepen around her, as if the jungle itself knew the answer but refused to tell. Maya awoke to the sound of rustling leaves. Her body ached from the night spent curled against the roots of the ancient tree. Morning sunlight filtered through the canopy, dappling her face with soft golden light. But the tranquility of the moment was shattered when she heard a low, gravelly voice. "You shouldn't have been there last night." Maya scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. Standing a few paces away was a tall figure cloaked in dark robes. His hood obscured most of his face, but his piercing amber eyes glowed like embers beneath the shadow. He held a staff carved with intricate symbols that seemed to pulse faintly. "Who are you?" Maya demanded, taking a step back. The jungle's oppressive silence weighed on her, broken only by the occasional snap of a branch underfoot. The artifact's pulsing light bathed their surroundings in an eerie glow, as if it carried the heartbeat of the forest itself. Koku walked ahead, his staff in one hand, cutting through the dense foliage with effortless precision. "You must be careful, Maya," he said without looking back. "The power of the orb is immense. In the wrong hands, it can bring destruction instead of salvation." Maya nodded, though doubt gnawed at the edges of her mind. Could she trust Koku completely? The revelations of the past day were overwhelming, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As they approached the outskirts of the village, Koku halted abruptly. "We're not alone," he murmured, his eyes scanning the shadows. Before Maya could react, a sharp whistle pierced the air. Figures emerged from the darkness, torches in hand. The villagers had found them. Leading the group was Adi, Maya's childhood friend, his expression unreadable. "Adi!" Maya stepped forward, relief flooding her voice. "Thank the gods you're here. We need to." "Seize her," Adi interrupted coldly. The words struck her like a physical blow. "Adi, what are you talking about?" Two burly men stepped forward, grabbing her arms before she could react. The orb slipped from her grasp and rolled across the ground, its glow dimming. Koku moved to intervene, but Adi raised a hand, and the men aimed spears at him. "Don't try anything, stranger," Adi warned. "You're outnumbered." Maya struggled against her captors, her voice shaking with anger. "Adi, what are you doing?" "We're trying to save the village." Audie's eyes narrowed. And I'm trying to protect it. The elders warned me you were meddling in things you didn't understand. They said you'd bring ruin upon us all. The elders are lying, Maya shouted. This artifact, it's the key to breaking the curse. They want to use it for their own gain. Audie hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his face, but it was quickly replaced by resolve. I don't know what to believe anymore. All I know is that you're a danger to everyone. Koku's voice cut through the tension like a blade. If you take her back to the elders, you'll doom this village. The curse cannot be broken without her. Audie turned to him, his expression hardening. Stay out of this. You've filled her head with lies, and now she's risking everything. Maya's heart sank as she realized the truth. Audie had chosen his loyalty to the elders over their friendship. The betrayal stung more than she thought possible. As the villagers dragged her away, she caught Koku's eye. He gave her a subtle nod, a silent promise that this wasn't the end. Maya sat in the dimly lit holding hut, her wrists bound with rough rope. The room smelled of damp earth and smoke from a nearby fire pit. The orb had been taken from her, leaving her with a gnawing sense of emptiness. She couldn't stop replaying Audie's betrayal in her mind, each moment cutting deeper than the last. The door creaked open and Koku slipped inside, his movements swift and silent. How did you get past the guards? She whispered, her voice filled with a mix of relief and suspicion. Koku knelt beside her, pulling out a small blade to cut her bindings. You'd be surprised what shadows can conceal. We don't have much time. Maya rubbed her sore wrists, her eyes narrowing. Why are you helping me? You know more about this curse than you're letting on. I deserve the truth. Koku hesitated, his usually sharp gaze softening. You're right. You do deserve the truth. He leaned back, his tone shifting from urgency to something more solemn. The curse that haunts this village is no ordinary one. It was born of betrayal, greed, and bloodshed. Your ancestors' blood. Maya frowned. What are you saying? My family caused this. Not directly, Koku said, his voice low. Centuries ago, your family was entrusted with the artifact, the orb. It was a sacred object, meant to balance the forces of life and death in this land. But someone sought to exploit its power. A faction within your lineage attempted to harness it for personal gain, triggering the curse that now plagues the village. Maya felt the weight of his words like a stone in her chest. And my parents? What happened to them? Koku's expression darkened. Your parents were guardians of the orb. They discovered the elders' plan to use it for the ritual of renewal, a ritual that doesn't break the curse but merely transfers its burden to another. When they tried to stop it, they were branded as traitors and killed. A lump formed in Maya's throat. The grief she had buried for years threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to stay focused. If the ritual doesn't break the curse, what will? Koku hesitated again, his voice dropping to a near whisper. A true bearer of the orb must willingly sacrifice their essence, their life force, to restore balance. Maya's breath caught. You mean, I have to die to save the village? Yes, Koku said quietly. But it must be your choice. No one can force you. The weight of his words hung between them, suffocating in its finality. Maya clenched her fists, her mind racing. She thought of the villagers who had turned against her, the friends who had betrayed her. But she also thought of the children playing in the fields, the elders who told stories by the fire, and the generations yet to come. I need time to think, she said finally, her voice trembling. Koku nodded. I'll keep watch. Whatever you decide, I'll stand by you. As he slipped back into the shadows, Maya sat alone in the hut, staring at the flickering firelight and wrestling with the impossible choice before her. The storm rolled in with an unnatural fury. Winds howled like a chorus of wailing spirits, and lightning streaked across the sky in jagged arcs. The once tranquil village of Mundar was now a battlefield of nature's wrath. Trees groaned and snapped under the weight of the tempest, and villagers scrambled to secure their homes, their faces pale with fear. Maya stood at the edge of the jungle, the orb clutched tightly in her hands. Its glow pulsed in sync with the thunder, as if feeding off the chaos. Beside her, Koku gripped his staff, his hood blown back by the wind, revealing a face etched with worry and resolve. This is the curse's final warning, he said, his voice barely audible over the roar of the storm. If the balance isn't restored soon, the village will be destroyed. Maya's heart pounded as she gazed at the glowing orb. It felt alive in her hands, a living entity that demanded a choice. But the weight of that choice was suffocating. The village bell tolled frantically, calling everyone to the central square. Maya and Koku exchanged a glance before making their way through the chaos. When they arrived, the elders were already there, their faces lit with the eerie glow of torches. Maya! Elder Nere's voice cut through the storm like a whip. You've brought this calamity upon us. Hand over the orb and let us complete the ritual before it's too late. No, Maya said, her voice steady despite the wind tearing at her clothes. The ritual won't save us. It's only a temporary fix, a lie you've used to control the village for generations. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The villagers looked from Maya to the elders, uncertainty etched on their faces. Don't listen to her, Elder Locus snarled. She's a child who doesn't understand the burden of leadership. The ritual is our only hope. Koku stepped forward, his staff glowing brighter as he spoke. The ritual transfers the curse, but it doesn't end it. Maya has the power to break it permanently, but it will require a true sacrifice, one born of choice, not coercion. The elders' expressions faltered, and the crowd murmured in confusion. Adi, standing near the front, looked at Maya with a mix of guilt and disbelief. Maya, he said, his voice trembling, is this true? Can you really end the curse? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Can. But it will cost me everything. The storm intensified, as if urging her to decide. The wind tore at the villagers' clothing, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Elder Neri stepped forward, her tone desperate. If you do this, Maya, there's no coming back. Are you truly willing to pay that price? Maya looked at the faces of the villagers, some filled with fear, others with hope. She thought of her parents who had died protecting her, and the countless lives that would be lost if she didn't act. Yes, she said, her voice firm. I'll do it. The crowd fell silent as Maya stepped into the center of the square. Koku followed, his staff glowing brighter with each step. You're stronger than you know, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. I'll guide you through this. Maya took a deep breath and raised the orb above her head. Its light intensified, bathing the square in a blinding blue glow. The storm seemed to pause, as if the entire world was holding its breath. Let this be the end, Maya whispered. The orb shattered in her hands, releasing a surge of energy that knocked everyone to the ground. the light expanded, engulfing the village and the jungle beyond. For a moment everything was silent. When the light faded, the storm was gone. The air was calm, and the village stood untouched. Maya lay in the center of the square, motionless, the shattered remains of the orb scattered around her. Koku knelt beside her, his face a mask of sorrow. "Her sacrifice wasn't in vain," he said softly. "The curse is broken." Maya awoke to the sound of murmuring voices and the soft rustling of leaves. The pain in her body was immediate, like fire coursing through her veins. She struggled to sit up, the shattered remnants of the orb glowing faintly around her. The villagers stood in a wide circle, their faces a mix of awe, fear, and sorrow. Koku knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. His usually stoic expression was softened with grief. "You're awake," he said, his voice low. Maya blinked, her vision blurry. "What happened? Did it work?" Koku nodded solemnly. "The curse is broken, but it's not over yet. The dark force that created it won't relinquish its hold so easily. It's coming." As if on cue, the ground trembled violently. A low, guttural roar echoed through the air, sending shivers down Maya's spine. The villagers screamed and scattered, some running toward their homes while others froze in place. From the jungle's edge, a towering shadow emerged. Its form was ever-shifting, a swirling mass of darkness with piercing red eyes that burned like fire. The air grew colder as the entity advanced, its presence oppressive and suffocating. Maya forced herself to her feet, swaying unsteadily. "What is that?" "The manifestation of the curse," Koku said, rising beside her. "It's the spirit of the greed and betrayal that created the orb. It knows you've destroyed its anchor, and now it seeks vengeance." The entity roared again, the sound reverberating through the air. Tendrils of shadow shot out, lashing at the ground and tearing through the village. Maya's heart pounded as she watched the destruction unfold. Koku turned to her, his eyes intense. "Maya, you're the only one who can stop it. The orb's energy is still within you. You must confront it." "I don't know how," she cried, fear gripping her. "You do," he insisted. "The power is already inside you. Trust yourself." Maya closed her eyes, taking a deep, shuddering breath. She could feel the remnants of the orb's energy pulsing within her, a steady rhythm that matched her heartbeat. When she opened her eyes, they glowed faintly blue. The entity lunged toward her, its tendrils of darkness reaching out like claws. Maya stepped forward, raising her hands. A wave of blue light erupted from her palms, colliding with the shadow. The impact sent shockwaves through the air, forcing the entity to recoil. "Keep going," Koku shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Maya focused, summoning every ounce of strength she had. She pushed back against the entity, her light growing brighter with each passing moment. The shadow roared in fury, its form flickering and distorting under the assault. As the battle raged on, Maya's memories flooded her mind. She saw her parents' faces, their laughter, and the love they had poured into protecting her. She saw the villagers, flawed but worth saving, and the future they could build together. "This ends now," she screamed, her voice echoing with power. With a final surge of energy, Maya unleashed a blinding beam of light that pierced through the entity's core. The shadow let out one last, ear-splitting roar before dissolving into nothingness. The sky cleared, and the village fell silent. Maya collapsed to her knees, her body trembling from exhaustion. Koku rushed to her side, steadying her. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. "It's over." The villagers began to emerge from their hiding places, their faces etched with disbelief. Slowly, they gathered around Maya, their expressions shifting from fear to gratitude. Elder Neri stepped forward, her head bowed. "Maya, doubted you. I see now that I was wrong. You've saved us all." Maya met the elder's gaze, her voice hoarse but steady. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. We can't let fear and lies divide us anymore." The crowd murmured in agreement, a new sense of unity spreading through them. The village stood in eerie silence after the battle, the air still and the skies clear. The villagers gathered around Maya, who remained kneeling on the ground, her energy depleted. Her body trembled, not from fear but from the sheer magnitude of what had transpired. Koku stayed by her side, his hand resting on her shoulder, his steady presence grounding her. "The darkness is gone," he said softly. "The curse is truly broken now." Maya looked up at the crowd surrounding her. Their faces were a mixture of awe, guilt, and gratitude. Adi stepped forward, his usual confidence replaced with hesitance. "Maya," he began, his voice trembling. I was wrong. I let fear guide me, and I betrayed your trust. You have every right to hate me." Maya looked at him for a long moment, the weight of his words settling over her. She thought of their childhood, the bond they once shared, and the pain of his betrayal. But she also thought of the lessons she had learned on this journey. "I don't hate you, Adi," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Fear makes us do terrible things. But we can't let it define us. What matters now is what we do moving forward." Adi's shoulders sagged with relief, tears welling in his eyes. "Thank you. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Elder Neri stepped forward next, her head bowed low. "Maya, I owe you an apology. I allowed my pride and the traditions of the past to blind me. You've shown us a path forward, one that doesn't rely on lies or sacrifice. You've given us hope." Maya nodded, her exhaustion making it hard to speak. "It's not just me. We have to rebuild this village together, as equals. No more secrets. No more fear." The villagers murmured in agreement, a newfound sense of unity spreading through the crowd. Koku rose to his feet, addressing them. "This is a new beginning for Mundar. The darkness has been banished, but the lessons it left behind must never be forgotten. Let this village be a beacon of hope, a reminder of the strength that comes from truth and unity." As the villagers began to disperse, returning to their homes to repair the damage, Koku helped Maya to her feet. "You're stronger than I ever imagined," he said with a small smile. Maya managed a weak laugh. "I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Koku's smile widened. "The path you've walked is one of great courage. Your parents would be proud." Her heart swelled at the mention of her parents. She felt their presence, their love, in the warm sunlight now bathing the village. For the first time in years, the weight of grief felt lighter. As the day wore on, the villagers worked together to repair their homes and clean up the debris left by the storm. Maya and Koku joined in, their presence a reminder of the strength they had all found within themselves. When night fell, the village gathered around a massive bonfire in the central square. The flames danced in the cool night air, casting long shadows and filling the space with warmth. Elder Neri stepped forward, holding a small wooden box. "Maya," she said, her voice carrying the reverence of the moment. "We found this among the ruins of the temple. It belonged to your parents." Maya opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a small, intricately carved pendant, a symbol of her family's lineage. Tears filled her eyes as she held it close to her heart. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. The villagers raised their voices in song, a melody of renewal and hope that echoed through the night. Maya sat by the fire, the pendant around her neck, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Koku sat beside her, gazing into the flames. "What will you do now?" he asked. Maya looked at the village, at the people she had grown up with, and the new bonds they were forming. "I'll stay," she said. "There's so much work to be done, and I want to be a part of it. This is my home." Koku nodded, a satisfied expression on his face. "You've found your purpose, Maya. That's a rare and powerful thing." Weeks passed, and the village of Mundar began to flourish like never before. The air seemed lighter, the fields more fertile, and the rivers clearer. Without the oppressive shadow of the curse hanging over them, the villagers embraced their newfound freedom with renewed vigor. Maya had become a central figure in this revival. No longer seen as an outcast, she was now regarded as a symbol of resilience and hope. Wherever she went, people greeted her warmly, their smiles genuine. Despite the admiration, Maya remained humble, dedicating her days to helping rebuild the village and fostering unity among the people. One crisp morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, casting golden hues across the village, Maya stood by the edge of the jungle. She held the pendant given to her by Elder Neri, tracing its intricate carvings with her fingers. Beside her, Koku stood quietly, his ever-watchful gaze scanning the landscape. "It's hard to believe this is the same place," Maya said, her voice tinged with awe. "The village feels alive." "It reflects the people," Koku replied. "Freed from fear, they found their strength again. And you've led them to this moment." Maya turned to him, a faint smile on her lips. "I didn't do it alone. You've been by my side every step of the way." Koku chuckled softly. "Perhaps. But the courage to face the darkness, that was all yours." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Adi, who jogged up to them, slightly out of breath. "Maya, Koku," he said, his tone urgent but excited. "The council wants to see you. They're calling a meeting in the square." Maya exchanged a glance with Koku, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Together, they followed Adi back to the village, where a crowd had already gathered. At the center of the square stood Elder Neri and the other council members, their expressions solemn yet hopeful. When Maya and Koku arrived, Elder Neri stepped forward. "Maya," she began, her voice carrying over the murmurs of the crowd. "Your actions have saved this village and given us a second chance. We've been discussing how best to honor that legacy." Maya shifted uneasily, not one for public praise. "You don't need to honor me," she said. "I just did what needed to be done." Neri smiled gently. "And that humility is precisely why you're the right person for what we have in mind. We'd like you to lead us, not as an elder, but as a guide for the future." The crowd erupted in applause, their faces glowing with agreement. Maya stood frozen, the weight of their request sinking in. She looked to Koku, who nodded encouragingly. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that, she admitted. You've already proven yourself, Neri said. Leadership isn't about titles or traditions. It's about heart, and yours is stronger than anyone's. Maya took a deep breath, the warmth of the villagers' trust enveloping her. If this is what the village needs, then I'll do it. But only if we do it together, as equals. The crowd cheered, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Maya felt at peace with her place in the world. That evening, as the village celebrated, Maya and Koku sat at the edge of the festivities, watching the children dance around the fire. What about you? Maya asked, turning to Koku. What's next for the wandering seer? Koku smiled faintly, his gaze distant. My work here is done. There are other places in need of guidance, other people searching for their path. Maya felt a pang of sadness but nodded. You'll always have a home here, Koku. You're as much a part of this village as anyone else. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression soft. And you'll always have my faith, Maya. Remember, the light you carry isn't just for this village. It's for the world. As the celebration continued, Koku slipped away into the night, his departure as quiet and unassuming as his arrival. Maya watched him go, her heart heavy but full of gratitude. In the weeks that followed, Maya embraced her role as a guide for the village. She worked tirelessly to ensure that the lessons of the past were not forgotten and that the community thrived in harmony. Under her leadership, Mundar became a beacon of light and hope, its story spreading to neighboring villages and inspiring others. Maya often stood at the edge of the jungle, gazing into the horizon, the pendant resting against her chest. She thought of her parents, of Koku, and of the journey that had brought her here. The tears she shed now were not of sorrow but of gratitude, for the strength she had found within herself and the legacy she had created. The moral lesson of Tears of Maya, that true leadership and heroism often require personal sacrifice, truth and transparency. Only by working together and sharing responsibilities can a community thrive. Maya's journey also teaches that our actions today shape the future. The story about redemption, personal growth, and the transformative power of truth and unity, emphasizing that we are stronger when we confront our fears and come together as a community.